Alright, let's open up our shader editor. So we can just slide this across here. Going to shader editor. And you can see here our textures are imported, but not all of them. So we'll just delete this. And be sure you have Node Wrangler on for the Blender add-ons. So if we go into preferences and we can go into add-ons, just type in Node Wrangler and be sure this is checked. Okay, and if you've done that, you can hit by clicking the principal, you get Control Shift T, and we can import all of our textures here. So just import all of this and hit Principal Textured Setup, and there we go. It's automatically gonna update for our Ferrari here. So we're gonna have to adjust some of this a little bit. So let's have a look here. Let's go back into EV. Let's bring the specular down. Maybe we can just adjust the displacement a bit. And let's go back to cycles. There we go, that's looking a bit better. And we can go into our world and add in a new environment texture. Hit open. And I think I used the more parking lot. Okay, so if we go back to film and uncheck transparent, this is basically what it's doing, just giving this nice HDR lighting. Okay, so let's make it like transparent, and we'll just make this Control T. So we can adjust that. Okay, and we'll come back to object, and maybe for the 0.8 something. Just give it some bump like that. Okay, and we might just rotate this a little bit. With our ground plane, I might hit parent it to our car here. So if we select the plane and hit Shift, then the car, and hit Control P, set it to object. Now when I rotate the car, the plane will follow it as well. So that's a good handy tip. Let's rotate this a little bit. And let's set up our lighting here. So if we come here to our lights, you can see we have what's this, like a point light. Let's go into the top view, and let's just move this across here and just change this to an area. And let's just rotate this like that. And we might just set up this lamp here, get some good lighting happening, and we might just make this like what, 1500. And we might even add a little bit of a point light, so we just add a let's duplicate this actually. So Shift D is to duplicate. Go to top view and change this to a point, and like somewhere around here. Turn the radius down, and maybe turn down maybe half this. Okay, let's go into camera view. It's looking pretty good, and we can just adjust this a bit. And go into the world, we can even just add a little bit of a curves adjustment just to darken this a bit, just so that our shadow highlights can come into play here. Might scale it up a bit. Okay, it's looking pretty good. Alright, so if we play this back, it should stay in a neutral position. I might move this forward a little bit. Just scale it down a bit. And just play this forward. You can do some more fine tweaks with this, but I think for now it's looking pretty good. Just want to make sure that this car doesn't look like it's floating in the air. So that's a pretty useful tip to note. And with that plane, we want to make sure that it's barely touching the tile, like that. It kind of looks funny because this is elevated a bit. So yeah, just fine tune it just a little bit until you're happy with it. Okay. Alright, so this kind of look like it's elevating, but I know it's not, but so I might just give this a little bit of less height. Okay. Alright, so once you feel like you've finished, we can go back to the compositing tab. And we don't really need the movie clip. All we just need is this alpha. So we can just come back here. Let's just re-render this scene, just so that our rendering is on top. Okay, it's looking pretty good. I forgot that the cube was there, so I might as well just delete that cube. Or you know what, we can just hide it from the rendering tab. So we can go in here and just select disable in renders. We can just disable that in the renders. Okay, that's looking pretty good. Alright, so let's just do one final render. And if we just update our, and that is looking good. Alright, so let's go ahead and change this to, I set my numbers with 200 for the render. And since it's rendering over 300, oh no, so exactly 300 images, we want to make the rendering time decrease. So I'm going to make this about 2, and I'm going to definitely turn off these settings. And let's go into the performance tiles. I think my tiles were like 256 by 256. Couldn't remember. I think higher the large area of the tiles, the faster the rendering. But I'm not exactly sure. I've only got a 1650 GTX Ti with 4 gigs of DDR6 RAM. Definitely better than my old laptop, but it's still heavy duty rendering. I think there was a setting in shadows that I wanted to decrease as well. Oh yeah, here we go. Clicks, and I might just turn this down to like what, 2, and maybe AO bounces back to maybe like 2. Okay, so once you've done some experimentation with the lighting, shadows, and you're really happy with your scene, you can go ahead and just double check your render settings that you've set it to whichever samples you like. These were my values for when I rendered. It took about almost a little over an hour and a half just to render 300 frames, but you can only do what's best. And yeah, so once you're done, you can hit Control. Oh, before you do that, you should give yourself an output. I'm just going to add a new folder, and we'll call this image sequence v2. Let me spell image. And we'll just accept that. We'll make sure it's RGB alpha. Color depth is okay, it doesn't have to be too high, so I'm just going to leave it at 8 and hit Control F12. And that will render your image sequence. So I'm just going to let this run for, I don't know, however long it needs to take, and yeah, we'll composite this in After Effects. Alright, so here we are in After Effects. So I'm just going to make new comp, and we'll call this Composite, and let's import our render into our scene here. And since it has an alpha, we don't have to worry about that. Let's scale this down to maybe like what, 85%, and then we'll just come over here and then just trim this to this work area comp. Let's have a look here. So we can first adjust our footage, and we can just like give this a little bit of a contrast look. Okay. And same goes for our car here. Just darken it a bit like that. Okay, and we'll add two adjustment layers, Control Y, and we'll label this as CC, and label this as vignettes. Okay, so starting with the vignette, we'll just add our usual mask here. I'll make this like 500, and just make it subtle. And we'll add a curves adjustment to our color correction, and we might just give this a little bit of a high contrast like that, and we can add some red to this, maybe take away some blue. And we just want to make this subtle. We don't want it to look too yellow. And add a tint effect. Just get rid of some of that color. Maybe like 20%. It's good. And we'll add an unsharp mask to this. And we'll just make this about like 40, and then spread this out to 2. Okay, and for our car, we might even add a hue and saturation, and just bring that color back in a bit. Bring that hot red back in. Make it about 15, like that. Alright, so let's just have a quick preview for this. Alright, let's check this out. Cool. Alright, so that's pretty much it for the composite. There's really not much you can do inside of After Effects unless you want to add in some smoke elements, or like you want to make this car explode, but I didn't really go in too deep into that. I just wanted to cover just how to composite a car inside of your scene, that's all. So alright guys, so that's the end of the tutorial. My name's David. I hope you learned interesting techniques that you can use for your own creation. Please give a like if you like this video, subscribe if you want to see more, and be sure to hit that bell button to get the notifications, and comment out below if you have any questions. And I will see you in the next video.